Cool.
Hey, we're in. I
All
hear
right,
that.
yes, we're here. I hear that. And we are here with a special guest, a big Phil.
Big
We'd like to,
Phil. Big
we'd like to
Phil.
introduce yourself.
So hey, how you guys doing? I'm Phil. I go by the Blerd Explorer. I'm from South Carolina, USA. Currently reside in South Korea, teaching ESL. I've been doing that since 2015, going on 5 years of counting.
Oh, okay, nice.
ESL,
nice,
is that
nice.
English Sign Language or just English language?
Yeah. So I teach elementary students English as a second language.
Okay, English as second language.
Okay.
Boy,
Interesting.
that's
And
nice.
you-
That's nice.
What did you want to say?
No, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you've so you put together a book of your travels to or in South or your living situation in South Korea.
Right. Yes, sir. Yeah, I call it the Black Traveler's Guide ebook series for the cities of Incheon and Daegu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What made you want to do that?
Well, I felt.
Opportunity.
Well, let me back up. So my content is mostly about Black travel, trying to encourage more people of African descent to travel more. Primarily, I'm get more African Americans to travel because in the U.S. most of us have never traveled or lived abroad, and most of the time, most Americans who did so because they were in the military.
Yeah.
So that's why more of my content was trying to get more African American travel. But I have a man of my Dale from the UK too. Another brother from the UK. He took a look at the book. He said, "Why not try to make it seem more to reach other Black folk like in the UK or France to be able to read it? Try around too." So he was right. It got me thinking. Like, do Black people in the UK, for instance, like travel a lot, or has that always been common, or not as much?
I think it's interesting because we travel quite a bit because I guess we've got Europe and it's so accessible to us. You know, you can jump on a flight to Spain or whatever it might be. But I think when it comes to international flights, we don't do the most traveling.
Right.
I think it depends. Caribbean.
Yeah, a lot of us travel from here to the Caribbean. I find a lot of us over here. There's a lot of African and Caribbean diaspora over here. So there's a lot of Black people whose parents weren't born in England. They were born in either Africa or the Caribbean, and they would move here for better opportunities sometimes, regarding different circumstances. So you'll find that a lot of us have been back to maybe Africa or our respective countries, or the Caribbean, our respective countries. And then on the flip side, though, there's a lot of people that maybe haven't traveled. So I would say it's of a mix. And you find a lot of Black people who travel from the UK anyway, will travel to, like Aaron said, Spain or Portugal or France or maybe Amsterdam. And then if it's going further out, then you'll find us going to America or Mexico, you know what I mean, Caribbean, you know. So I think it's 50-50. You'll find that some people have traveled a lot and then others haven't traveled.
Yeah.
But what I found is that what I'm interested about your book was that you're traveling to Asia. I don't feel like a lot of Black people travel to Asia.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah.
Like Korea, because I've been to Hong Kong myself and Thailand.
Yeah.
And my experience in Hong Kong was very different to my experience in Thailand. And I was reading through your book, actually. I found it funny because you said that if a Black person traveling to South Korea, don't be too alarmed by the stairs because it's more curiosity. But I found that in Hong Kong, my experience was a little different.
Mm-hmm.
We did get a lot of stairs, but some of it was curiosity, and others was kind of made known that it just wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of had that experience. I had that same experience in Thailand, especially with later with people who I found to be Chinese. They wanted to take they wanted to take pictures of me, not even with me, but of me. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't take offense to it. I didn't take offense to it. Normally I would, but then sometimes it's like, I think a bit of the ignorance and stuff well, is it ignorance if you don't really know? So a lot of people from that side of that side of the world haven't really seen many black people. So therefore, when you don't see something that every day, you tend to look, you know what I mean? And you tend to want to take pictures and, you know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's a big, major problem in China too. Like, I've heard, like, especially China's like really bad black person to travel to over there because most mainland Chinese who come from the like small rural areas to the bigger cities to work, right? Even in the cities, most Chinese have never really been around foreigners, especially non-white foreigners too. So when we come through, of course, people want to stop and stare and take pictures because it's not something to see on.
But we've heard our stories of, you know, I guess being in the UK, you know, we hear a bit about South Korea, we hear quite a bit about North Korea, you know, just from news outlets and so forth. But what is it about South Korea that really just calls out to you?
For me, it was something different. Now, originally, so I was in senior university when I went out back in 2015. And, you know, like when you're about to graduate university, trying to find a job, you send out CVs, going to job fairs, nothing was sticking, right? And then I saw an ad from my university about the idea of teaching English in Korea. And that's why I got the idea. Right. Now, I actually looked at I did the comparison like China, you know, Taiwan, China, or Japan, right? But South Korea had more of a well-known reputation, and it was cheaper than Japan too.
Okay.
So that's what kind of led me to do it. Plus, it was something different. And like you said, most in the West, up until I moved to Korea, I didn't know much about Korea, except, you know, Samsung, North Korea, what you hear in the news, and that's about it too.
Yeah. You know what? I find I think it's always been a very brave step for anyone to kind of move to a place without knowing too much about it, especially to live as well. I know a lot of people that when they travel, they go to places that they don't really know, but it's on a holiday basis. Do you know what I mean? But then in your circumstance where you've actually gone to go and live, I feel like it's a very big step. How did you, what kind of thought process did you go through in order to, you know, to make that decision?
So of course, like, especially when it comes to like moving to another country, like you really want to look at both the pros and the cons. Like I feel like nothing should be sugarcoated, right? Especially when you move to like halfway around the world, right? You gotta look at everything, and look at different jobs, work styles, type of housing, things of that nature. Like, you know, those are important things because it's not like you move from one city to another in your home country. Like you move to another country, different culture, different rules, different everything. So so you really have to look up and down, see what's to expect, and it's not something. And of course, I took like months to really, you know, look into that before I decide to say, okay, let's do this. Because it's not something that you should just do on a whim. Because, you know, when it comes to other countries, right, there's difference. Because when it comes to experiences, of course, is you got the travel holiday experience, and then it's like, okay, what's the day-to-day experience? What's it like to actually live like a local? Because, for example, like, you know, I've been to Portugal before. I had a great time there, but I don't know what it's like to live there. It could be a totally different experience.
Yeah. I feel like that's always.
What would you say?
Yeah, go ahead.
What would you say? Like at any point living in South Korea, when between the time you first moved to up until now, has there been any regrets just because of your experiences there?
Of course, I mean, there's social regrets. You know, you're missing looking back at home, see all your friends doing amazing things. Some of them getting married, buying their first houses. This is my nieces, not be able to see them in person. Yeah. So there's like social culture aspects you do miss back at home. But honestly, I just miss being able to buy clothes in Korea, back in the US. I'm a 2 meter giant person, so it's kind of hard to buy clothes over here in Korea.
That's one question I had. That's one question I had actually, because like looking at your stories and everything like that, I feel like you. How tall are you? You're above 6 foot.
200 centimeters. Yeah.
All right. That sounds.
So
how much in centimeters? Sorry.
200.
Oh, well, yeah, you are. So, yeah,
I'm sure that's about like 6'7", isn't it?
4.
Is it 6'4"?
Yeah.
No, it's about,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I mentioned both my books that I mean it's possible to travel. Like when it comes to Korea, right? Really, just Asian cultures, right? It's gonna be hard to buy clothes shopping, especially if you are obese or tall, because you know most of the culture is pretty on average height, and you know in Asia, like it's all about looking slim and thin. Like you don't want to look obese, you don't want to look fat.
Really?
Now in Seoul, a place like Itaewon, in Myeongdong, you may have a shot at clothes shopping, but again, there's just no guarantee you'll find something in your size.
So do you just grab anything?
Don't be surprised if you just can't find. Go ahead.
What was that, Sean?
Do you just grab anything? So yeah, do you just grab anything that fits you, kind of thing? That because you don't, you know, your clothes are so few and far between. You know, you just grab whatever you can when you find it.
Pretty much. Like again, that's most of the time I just shop from Amazon or other stores in the US that have it shipped here because it's just easier.
Yeah.
And trying to go Seoul for the weekend and then realize I can't find what I'm looking for, and yeah.
Yeah. So culturally as well, how do you find you fitted in there? Do you miss any of your own sort of home comforts when it comes to, I guess, food or music?
Yeah. I mean, also, I find that, you know, I live in a small town. I'm in like a rural countryside of Korea. So I think the locals finally got used to it. I mean, they had foreigners before, but when I came through, of course, people would be stopping and staring because, again, my stats is not something that they see every day.
Yeah.
But now they kind of
So like, you've been out there since like the whole pandemic and everything since before then.
Before pandemic, yeah.
How's social life then?
Social, it's not been horrible.
Much out there.
Now, for those who know, South Korea is a pretty massive drinking culture, so it's very common, you know, for both Koreans and locals. Most folks get off work like 7, 8 o'clock. They go out to the bars, go get Korean barbecue, go get bar snacks, and that type of stuff, right? It's a social eating culture, right? And of course, in Korea, since during the pandemic, the Korean government has had limited hours, so like bars, restaurants, and other establishments, they had to close down by 9:30. And so as you can imagine, trying to get to the metro like at between like 8:30 to 9:30, it's a horrible nightmare because it's so packed. People trying to go home, and it's horrific because, you know, all the small businesses, like recently there's been protests of small businesses over in Korea, like they shave their heads to protest because, you know, most of them lost compensation because their business has been ruined because they can't work. I mean, they can work, but it's like when you open from like what 5 to 9:30, and then you gotta close. Like you barely make most restaurants. They barely make profit. Most of them break even.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So I joined late, boys. Sorry. Good evening, everybody. I joined a little bit late. Forgive me. Nice to meet you, brother. What's your name?
The Blerd Explorer.
Nice to meet you, bro. My name's Sion. I'm part of these. I'm friends. Unfortunately, I'm friends with these guys.
Yeah, I understand
that. I wanted to ask you your question in terms of like, I don't know, it may have been asked because I also haven't been in, but
yeah,
in terms of racism over there,
yeah, what
is it like? Have you since moving over there? Have you experienced a lot of racism? What is it like? Is it like very outward, or is it quite? I don't know. Like, what's your experience with racism in Korea?
I would say in terms of racism, it will be in terms of like looking for jobs.
Okay.
Now, it's no secret, like especially look at the demographic of ESL teachers in Korea, it's still a preference for white teachers than non-white teachers. Especially if you're a white girl from, like, say, America or Canada, they have a higher chance of finding a job than anybody else. I actually, back in 2019, when I was doing a job search, I had one recruiter here told me that some of the places he sent my CV to said they don't want a black teacher.
Wow. Just out in space.
No, he said it was on home. But I'm like, okay. I mean, I wasn't hurt, but okay, at least you're honest about that. So keep moving, looking at other places, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I would say more Korea has a xenophobia problem. Especially, like, it's easier to blame foreigners, especially during COVID. Like, things got worse. If there's ever an outbreak, or if there's a case where or news where if there's a foreigner who's at an event or party or workplace that had tested positive, it's going to blow up on the news in Korea. And of course, xenophobia against all foreigners gets blows up. And of course, all the white people are complaining and crying, "Oh, this is racism. This is xenophobia."
Do you know how funny that is? Not funny, but like same thing happens over here.
And of course, all the black, and we're joking. And me and the black folk were joking that, yeah, really, racism kind of sucks, right?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, it must
and
be.
Now, real quick. In case you didn't hear, like, now there are some bars, clubs, other establishments who said no foreigners allowed. So there are some establishments who say no foreigners allowed.
Wow.
How does that make you feel, bro?
That's mad.
Well, I don't care about clubs drinking, so it doesn't hurt me in person. But now it could be for numerous reasons. One, it could be because the last foreigners who came through may have caused problems, which is fair enough, understandable. Sometimes it could be because the staff, they don't have any English speaking staffers, and that's their choice. It's a business. If they want to hire somebody who speaks English or not. I'm not going to front them up. Or it's just strict xenophobia. And again, that doesn't hurt me because, again, that they don't want my money. Fine, I'll go somewhere else.
Straight.
I mean, now some foreigners, both white and black, they do complain about it. Like, they kind of hate them. But it's like, guys, it's just a club, just a bar. They're like, it's Korea. There are bars and clubs everywhere here, so you ain't got to cry about that.
You're a very patient man, Phil. Because I promise you, if that was someone from the EU, that be like, this is outrage. Like, how can you say black people or foreigners can't come in here? Blah blah blah. Like we just, I feel like you're quite calm as well because you're from the US. I feel like I met other people that are probably a bit more vocal about that and be like, well, why can't you come in?
Trust me, there be other like Americans who be more out there too, like that. But also, I won't be bashing because one, because you know, Korea has some very serious defamation laws.
Okay.
So that's why you got to be careful. Like, while you're in Korea, if you do experience some type of racist thing like that about a club or establishment, don't blast them on social media while you're in Korea because they can sue you for that.
Wow.
Wow.
And this happens to Koreans too. Like, even if a product of a business or a company does treat you bad, and even Korean tries to, you know, put a negative review on that, they can actually get sued by that. They can face lawsuits for that. So it happens to Koreans too. So that's why you kind of like want to be careful. Even if it's like, for example, for like Hagwons or English academies, right? There's many foreigners like myself. Some of us that put blacklisted. We have a blacklist website for bad jobs. Like, you have to be careful. And if the president of owner who put the academy on the blacklist, pays suits.
Whoa! Oh, you can't. There's no free of expression.
I mean, there is, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's not as good, especially like when it comes to protests. Like, now Koreans, they can protest if they want to. Foreigners, regardless of your visa, even if you got full residency, spousal visa, you can protest. Doesn't even matter what it's about, whether it's justified or not, because you can get actually deported or face fines.
That's mad.
So how, like, when you first found that out, how did that make you feel? Did that not make you feel like you had sort of a voice in a new society, or did you just accept it and just say?
Both I accepted it and also realized the fact that, one, I can't be really too mad because, one, I'm not Korean. I'm basically just a guest visiting in the house. So it's like, okay, I can't really do anything if I wanted to. Like, now, for example, a few weeks ago, there was an anti-vaccine protest in Gangnam in Seoul, South Korea. And I saw a few white people out there too. And I'm walking around thinking, okay, I don't think they realize that if they get caught, somebody reports them, they could get deported for that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's an anti-vaccine protest where the government mandates. And And of course, it's their right to protest. The Koreans, they have the right to protest. But my beef with them is most of them were spreading misinformation and disinformation. That was a big beef I have with them.
Wow.
Yeah, because
okay. What were they spreading?
So, for example, I saw some posters, pictures of this woman called Dr. Jane Ruby, and who was like on this conservative news show. But the problem with her was, for example, Dr. Jane Ruby, she's not a doctor in medicine or biology, epidemiology. She has a doctorate in psychology. So I made a TikTok video about that too.
Cool.
Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah. But so my big beef when it comes to the vaccine, the whole anti-vax scene is that the fact that most of the since most of the science is in English, right? The anti-vaxxers who speak English, they can translate it to their own language. And people who don't speak English, they don't know if it's true or not. And that's the most dangerous. And I know recently with John Oliver, he actually did an episode about that. And I think it's also a big problem in India with WhatsApp and everything too. But yeah.
So how long have you been? This may have been asked already. Obviously due to my lateness, I may have missed it. Sure. How long have you been living out there for?
5 years. So I moved here in May 2016.
Bloody hell, that's a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Long time.
Yeah.
I literally moved to Korea right before the 2016 election. I got out before things went out back home.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. Seems like you made the right call, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil, sorry. Yeah, would you mind explaining to us about like just taking us through your background, your upbringing, you know, especially being from North Carolina, what it's like over there, you know.
Well, yeah.
Compared to South Korea.
Yeah.
It's complicated. Let's just say I grew up in Washington, Alabama, and South Carolina. So I've been to those states. It's complicated in that story, family dramas and stuff.
Yeah.
That's where I live. I finished my secondary years, high school years in South Carolina, and the university there as well too. Studied too. Me personally, one of the reasons I guess for me at least, living abroad in general, living outside, I feel more confident. I feel more happy. I felt more creative. Because admittedly, if it wasn't for me living abroad and also the pandemic, I probably would never, if I stayed in the US working 2 miserable retail jobs still after college, I would have never became author. I had that push, that creative drive to try something different, you know?
Yeah.
You know what? Respect, man. Respect. Sometimes you just gotta do what's right for you. And that's the way, man. My thing is life is organic, so you end up where you need to be. And it sounded like you needed to get away to South Korea and just, you know, do what you gotta
start fresh, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, start fresh, start something new.
Are there any other places on your list where you'd wanna stay, whether it be in a different continent or different part of Asia?
Not staying wise, nothing yet. Right now, I just got into. Well, last year I moved to a really great position. I worked at elementary school in Korea, which I really enjoyed. So now that I'm in a good spot, now I start, I guess, building, like, you know, financial building. I actually start saving money, like, you know, I just start making plans, my financial plans and goals and such. And in a more comfortable financial position, then I can start saying, okay, let's possibly look at something else, you know.
Yeah.
Tell us about like the food and the markets out there. Like for example, like I feel like we're leading a bit in the Black Man's Travel Guide to South Korea kind of thing. Like, what would you kind of highlight in South Korea that would attract us? For example, like we've never been to South Korea. What should we go to South Korea, or what's it like there? What can we do out there?
Definitely hiking. If you have a hiker, then you have a field day in South Korea because there's so many. Because the Korean Peninsula it has so many hills and mountains everywhere. So hiking is very common over here. It's like every year, especially on weekends and holidays. The hiking trails get packed on the holiday periods and stuff. So people go hiking. Also, hey, time limit.
Oh, is the timing?
Or I think I got it. But anyway, okay.
Did you change it to unlimited?
Say again,
Time limit what? Time limit for what?
Did you change the time to unlimited?
No, I don't have that. No.
I don't know. Sorry, yeah, sorry, Phil.
Okay, continue. Now, food culture, Korean is, shared based. Of course, like I said, there's a lot of good Korean street food, like the tteokbokki, like a spicy rice cake and a red chili sauce. That's a great street bar food. One of my favorite dishes is called jimdak. It's like a steamed chicken dish with noodles, a leek, onions, potatoes, garlic. Now, if you are going to South Korea, you definitely have to be careful if you have food allergies, because a lot of dishes have a lot of we'll use like nuts, seeds, fish sauce, fish oil, shellfish. So you gotta be careful with that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
What's the like? I guess, is it quite expensive out there in comparison to the US, or is it?
In some aspects, Korea is cheaper. Unfortunately, beef, for example, beef is very expensive over here.
Wow.
A lot of it's
like Wagyu beef?
No, just beef in general. Like, yeah, because most of the beef that's grown here in Korea is very expensive. Not to mention, the majority of all the beef in Korea is imported from either Australia or I think New Zealand or US, mostly the US.
Okay, so what's the culture like in general in South Korea? Like, I actually don't know much about that part of Asia. Like, for example, I know if I was to go to America, there's an array of sports that people play. There's different things that people are into. I know that in society, there's like, you got the jocks, you got people who are a little bit nerdy, you got people,
right.
Do you know what I mean? Alternative. So what's like Korea? What is the culture like over there?
One, Korea culture. It's very, well, for one, South Korea is very conservative. So that's something you should keep in mind too. Also, a lot of Korean culture is about appearance culture. It's definitely big. Looking healthy, looking fit, not big fat. Even if you get a little weight, you'll get called out. So Korean culture, people are very blunt. For example, like you'll have kids saying, like I had kids saying, "Look at me, point me, call me giant chocolate man," or true story. Or for women, for example, like they have like you gotta have makeup on all the time. Like you gotta have you look good all the time. Without if you don't wear makeup, you consider ugly.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
That's nuts,
the standard beauty is ridiculous over here. It's ridiculous. And it was like having like multicultural, Korea, get light skin. Having light skin means you're beautiful, and that's centuries old culture. Like that's not anything new. And of course, you look wealthy, look like you got money.
Yeah. So is there a lot of like social media presence? Because I realized not too long ago that K-pop as well is like one big, if not the biggest music, but I've never even heard a K-pop song I like. Is it like? So what's the culture like? Is that K-pop's biggest thing, or do you have other genres?
Yeah, South Korea is definitely a social media driven society. Like, for instance, if there's a new cafe that's trending on the media, you'll find Koreans going to that cafe or establishment, and of course their business will be booming for a short time, and then it'll die out very quickly. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So as quick as it can get successful, if they can't sustain it, they can lose it just as quick.
Pretty much. And a lot of Korean culture, like especially wherever you go in Korea, you're all gonna find a coffee shop, a cafe, or a chicken restaurant, because for me it's very easy to open one. But the problem is, the competition is fierce, like uber fierce, because they're everywhere. So most don't kind of last. And this is even before COVID happened.
Okay. So like, you know how if you go to America, you might find go for a certain neighborhood and then you've got people smoking weed, or it's a kind of a rough neighborhood, and you go to another neighborhood and it's quite, you know, upper class in society. Is it like that in South Korea as well? Is there the slums over there?
I mean, in terms of, but you definitely know the difference from the housing, but in terms of apartments, we go like the older apartments, you see they're older, mostly held by, I guess their version of like poor and lower class society, and of course the elderly, and of course the more expensive high-rise apart flats with more of those who have wealthy, who took out who took out a housing loan just for an apartment.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
Yeah, so unfortunately, and also, Korean culture is many people are in debt because either because they're trying to get a loan for a flat, or even just buying like clothes, buying brands to just show off, to look like you're successful, like got money.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you watched Squid Game?
Yeah.
See, I was going to ask something like that.
The picture South Korea, like in terms of the poverty in some places and the riches in other. Like you said, a lot of people in debt.
Yes, very much so. Now, me personally, I did not see the hype of Squid Game. I watched it through, but at the same time, the problem is because I seen a manga or anime with the same premise long before Squid Game came out. So I was like, okay, I knew what was going to happen from the beginning.
Fair. That makes sense. So you're like, okay, so you read manga and you watch anime out there. Is that a big part of culture as well?
It's there, Korean culture. I've seen while working the metro, I've seen Greens reading One Piece, reading other webtoons and stuff. So I've had students talk about Naruto or One Piece and such. So it's there, but one thing you got to be careful when it comes to Korea is how you mention Japan in any capacity. For those who don't know, Korea has been occupied by Japan in the early 1900s, like during World War I, World War II.
Okay.
So, and of course, like, if you read the history about it, it's really dark, especially with the South Korean comfort woman. Like, it's really bad.
Really? I had no idea, man.
It was bad. Like, if you go, I think I saw an animated story about that. Looking up South Korea's comfort women. It's really bad.
Is that an anime?
No, it was an animated short film I made.
South Korea's comfort women.
Yeah, like if you read the history, like you watch many South Koreans to this day hate Japan.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that, man, because I enjoy anime and that myself. I don't read manga. My cousins do, but I enjoy watching anime and all of those things.
But can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You say go on. No, go ahead. Finish. Sorry, finish.
Yeah. So even to this day, unfortunately, many Koreans, young Koreans, they're pretty much, I guess, ingrained to hate Japan all the time because of the history. From the older generations, like, bringing that. I mean, that's never forget the history, but it's like at the same time, it's like this is the grandparents, the great grandparents who lived through them. I understand why they hate Japan. But nowadays, yes, Japan should apologize for their actions, but at the same time, it's like you should also. I guess I'm trying to watch what I say. Like, you shouldn't bash them, like put them over the head and say you should hate China all.
Yeah.
Well, I'm struggling here, Phil, because it's like I want to visit these Asian countries, but I just, for some reason, don't feel like I'll be accepted, and then I don't feel like I'll be able to embrace the culture how maybe I'd like to, and how maybe other people embrace our culture as Black people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't ever feel like they will allow us to do that. And from the likes of how you're describing South Korea, I'm struggling to see what the most exciting part about going there is. Do you know what I mean?
I got my favorite, the Daegu Chicken Festival, a fried chicken beer festival.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds
There we go.
I mean, yeah, you got me now.
There we go.
Can't keep a black man away from his chicken, man.
Did I hear fried
Away
chicken?
from the fried chicken, man.
Yes,
You heard that right, Fish Tank.
Yeah. So so South Korea loves fried chicken so much. There's like a little music fried chicken beer festival they have in July. And I went to it. I'm more upset because I've been living in Korea since 2016. I did not find out about the festival until 2019.
Oh, wow.
You missed out for 3 years.
No one told you.
Yeah, no one told me about it. I'm like, how did I not know about this?
Oh,
That's
man.
crazy, man.
So hold on, say that
Yeah.
again. That's a fried chicken festival.
Let me ask you something, Phil.
Go on, Stephen. Huh?
Dawn, was you gonna say something?
I just wanted to confirmation the fried chicken festival. That's what.
Oh,
That's what I just wanted confirmation.
He loves chicken, man.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
me.
Just
That's
try
me.
like,
I was gonna ask you, Phil, if you could swap one thing, in regards to the Korean culture that you obviously currently are living in, with something from the American culture, what would it be and why?
that's a good question.
I would say that's a good one.
Got you there, buddy.
Yeah, you gotta be on that. I would say definitely more tolerance, more acceptance of diversity.
Okay, yeah.
Especially, for example, for everybody from all different shapes and sizes, of course. Yeah, that's for sure. But again, Korea's, like many countries, very conservative, so they're not going to change anytime soon unless they want to. So nothing I can do about that.
So in saying that, are interracial relationships frowned upon over there?
Yes, but as long as you get a white person, you're good.
Wow.
Really?
Interesting.
No, I mean, now let me back up. So, from what I gather from both straight and gay folk, most Koreans will date a foreigner, but most of them won't bring home me, mom, and dad.
Okay.
Especially as a non-white person. Now, some family members will be accepted to be cool with it, but others will not.
Yeah.
Are there
Go ahead.
a lot of say Korean females dating like black guys out there?
Oh, definitely, especially like Busan. Again, same what I said before. Most of them will definitely do a fling, bridges dating, and both parties know it. So in terms of full-blown rape relationships, it does happen. But again, some of them probably won't bring them home and meet the family.
Yeah. Okay. Got you.
What about
Basically, just like a white girl in the U.S.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, what about sexuality in Korea as well? Like, is in some parts of some countries in Africa, homosexuality is frowned upon. So what's it like in Korea? Is it pretty much the same?
Same. Unfortunately, like other Asian cultures, Korea is pretty frowned upon. Now, I'll put it like this. So if you're LGBT, you can travel as a foreigner. It's fine. But you'll get stared at, of course, because you're LGBT. But and as a foreigner, too. Now, unfortunately for Korean people, it's a nightmare. Because Korea does not have any anti-discrimination laws. So unfortunately, people can, and both Koreans and foreigners can, and unfortunately have been being LGBT.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, here's a story. Back in 2020, May 2020. Let me set the setting. So, Itaewon has a place, Homo Hill, which has a bunch of gay LGBT bars, right?
Called what?
Was it called Homo Hill?
Yeah, the place in Itaewon, there's a little section in Itaewon, which is like the foreigner district. There's a place called Homo Hill. That's the nickname. Yes. I know. I don't know.
I'm listening.
Yeah. So there was an outbreak at a gay bar, and I guess because the Korean guy, I'm not sure he was gay or straight, what have you. He went there. I guess he was exposed. And he spread around COVID around, right? Now the big problem was because some of the people who were there, they were afraid of that. Oh, if when they get if their names get revealed, because government's trying to track everybody, right? They were afraid that if the names got revealed, they could lose their jobs and possibly have spousal problems, like probably get divorces and whatnot, because they're in a closet because they're at the club. And unfortunately, there are a lot of LGBT Koreans who are married to cis straight partners who probably don't want to be, but because of pressure, getting married, having kids.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I'm friends with somebody who is trans, so I understand what she's going through.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I hate to say it, but yeah, so it's fine as a foreigner if you want to work and live in Korea, but if you're lesbian, bi, or gay, not sure about trans, I'm not sure that's going to work with the visa. But because the whole visa, especially for trans individuals and visas, that's the whole thing I just don't know about. I can't help you on it. Some employers are fine with it because it's kind of seen as a foreigner thing. So some won't care, others may. So I would say this: if you're LGBT, and you think about working in Korea, just keep it on the low. Just don't tell anybody. Don't tell who you are.
Yeah.
So what's it like with religion out there? Are there any like religious groups out there, or is it much atheist?
Yeah, so not really as religious. Of course, you got Buddhist temples. Koreans who kind of dip as Buddhist practicing. Of course, you got Christians too.
Okay.
So you got you got a lot of Christians too, especially the older generation. One aspect of Korea, you definitely got to be careful with the Christians, because some of them, unfortunately, a lot of Koreans, you got to be careful when it comes, because they have a massive cult problem with Christian cults.
Sure.
So especially you got to be scoping out a certain church, because if somebody tries to talk to you about their church, right? Some of them are good, but at the same time, it could be part of a network of a massive cult. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Ask as well.
South Korea sounds interesting.
Yeah. I'm just going back with I think where Dan was talking about culture and Squid Game, and I've noticed that there's been some films and series that obviously have been on the rise, especially since Squid Game has come through. You have Hellbound, you have what was it, Parasite, Borderlands, Alice in Borderlands. A lot of them are coming up, but as being in Korea, these things that have always kind of been big and on the up anyway.
Of course, K-dramas, movies, and shows, they're very popular here in Korea, even before Squid Game, before the Korean wave. So actually, it's very common to visit locations and sets of the various K-dramas that took place, that were made. So it's very common for Koreans to do that. And of course, with Squid Game, I had students, like elementary students, talking about Squid Game. I teach third year to fifth year. So I had young kids watching Squid Game.
Crazy.
And I'm thinking, which I personally believe they should be watching, especially so young. But again,
it's true.
But they're playing PUBG all day, so I can't be mad.
That's crazy. Cool G, man. That must be a massive gaming culture out there.
Oh, very, especially PC mobile gaming. Now consoles, and they're a bit up. They really haven't been popular. It wasn't really, because when PS4 became available in Korea, they saw some more. And especially Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo 3DS, that was pretty popular. But when the Switch came out, it blew up. Especially because now for me in the US, I grew up playing Super Smash Brothers. Smash Bros is massive over in the US, right? I'm not sure how it's big.
Smash Bros was big in
Smash Bros. Yeah, I love Smash Bros.
It was big. Yeah, we love Smash Bros.
Yeah. Like, when I came to Korea, there was not a Smash Bros scene at all.
Oh, serious?
Yeah, it wasn't until Smash Bros. Ultimate on the Switch came out. That's when the scene started to blow up. And there were tournaments and events. Yeah.
Are you a big gamer or not? Not really.
Yeah, I'm very, very.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. I just actually went to Seoul to pick up the new Pokemon Legends Arceus. I was playing that late till midnight.
What's the time over there currently, Phil?
6:51 a.m.
Evening, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Cool. I was wondering what the time difference was being over that side.
Like 3 hours, 3 hour difference.
Have you stayed in any hotels there, Phil? Like, are the hotels quite expensive? Because I've always wanted to travel to Asia, and I feel like if I'm going to do a trip like that, I need to kind of set up maybe stop points of different countries I want to go to. But when it comes to South Korea, are hotels quite sort of cheap or?
Oh yeah, very. So also you got hostels to choose from, especially in like Seoul, Busan, Daegu, Icheon.
Yeah,
many hotels to choose from. But they have if you ever watch anime, then you probably should know the phrase "love hotel, love motels."
Mm.
But for those who don't know, basically the idea is love hotels were designed for couples because a lot of Korean apartments, the walls are pretty thin, right? So it's very common for couples to go get intimate at the love hotel. They pay for an hour overnight stay, or if you're traveling between cities, you'll pay like. I'm sorry, I don't know British pound conversion, so they'll say about, depending on the size where you go to, of course, you pay between like $25 USD to $100, depending on the type of hotel, because they're nicer hotels, of course.
Yeah.
Now, on the weekend holidays, the prices do go up.
Yeah.
But if you're looking, just say like example, I'll pay maybe $40 to $90 a night in total. Like say in total, right? Usually, especially if I'm saying like for 2 nights, it hits the spot. Like it'll do just fine.
Yeah. That's still pretty cheap.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap. Like the love hotels, motels, they were actually nice, like nicer than most hotels back in the US, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Amazing. And in terms of sorry, Sean, did you say something?
I was gonna ask a question afterwards, but you go ahead.
Yeah, no, go for it, Sean.
I was just gonna say, as you're living in South Korea, give us the juice on North Korea from where you live. We get fed by TV and everything like that. But
let's put it this way: if I don't see South Koreans running, I'll put it this way: if South Koreans running away, I'm good. Like that. Now, of course, you do get notifications, like emergency notifications about North Korea shooting a missile or whatnot. But again, it's like if you don't see South Koreans running away, hiding, then you're good.
Ever been that kind of threat before since you've been there?
I remember, I think a year or two ago, I can't remember what the time. There was a North Korean who tried to defect, who like actually tried to drive to the South Korean border. He made it, but he got shot pretty bad.
Oh, wow. Shot by who?
Police, probably.
Yeah, I think he was
on the South Korean police or the. Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, so North Korea who tried to defect. I thought, I'm not gonna lie, I thought something would happen after that, but no, nothing happened. Right now, unfortunately, there's no way to know how bad COVID is over there. We don't.
They don't share anything, do they?
Assume that they're being decimated horrifically, and we'll never know.
They don't share anything, do they?
No.
Unless there's a recent defector who made it, who can tell the story, we just don't know how bad it is over there. And I'm not gonna lie, I hate to say it though, but I think North Korea is not. They're definitely not going to try and invade right now because they're probably being decimated in ways with losses that we just will never know.
Yeah. Because I remember watching a documentary actually on, I think it was on Vice, and it was a guy that traveled into North Korea and managed to find kind of like a route through to get into North Korea. And his explanation of it was absolutely crazy. I mean, even just the way that they control like media outlets and so forth, and it's interesting. I think people tend to, on the Western side of the world, they tend to kind of put North Korea and South Korea in the same box almost when you're ignorant to not knowing what the difference is.
Did that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to hear, like, you know, how your experience of, you know, you just in Korea but black being in South Korea as well. But I was going to ask a question back to when it came to racial relationships. Do you find that the women are more, I don't know, more, how can I put it, like, do they find the concepts of a black person more exciting?
Yeah, like more.
Are they more like, you know, their heads turned a little bit more? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, from what I gather from both gay and straight folk, yeah, everybody look like folk, black men and women on both gay and straight sides. So yeah, it doesn't fit. We pretty much fit the size over here.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm booking a flight.
Take it easy.
This guy. Have you met many black women over there?
Not in person, not as much in person because again, most of them they tend to live in Seoul, Busan, and I don't. At the times even before COVID, like, I lived in more smaller cities. I worked with one or two in previous jobs, but there's not as much. Most of black women in Korea, they mostly are in the bigger cities.
Yeah. Okay. Guys, we might have to book a trip to South Korea one time. You know.
Yeah.
I heard that in South Korea.
We can do this in actual person.
Hey, Phil, we're gonna come link you, bro. You can show us around South Korea, bro.
Show us the ropes and everything like that, man.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that'll be wicked. If
you like Smash, I got the spot for you to play. There's a fighting game cafes here in Korea too.
Yeah, I'm involved. Yeah.
I'm fully involved.
South Korea main games. Game one, Smash Bros is number one. Then Tekken and Street Fighter.
Tekken.
And also Guilty Gear.
Oh wow.
I'm at that. If you look online, look at a place called Core A Studios. That's where I usually go to. I play where most of the time we play Smash Bros for offline session when it's safe to do so. But yeah, so you pay about $9 USD to enter. You get free drink, beer, non-alcoholic drinks, and then you play what fighting game setup they have. And of course, most of the time it's Smash Bros. That's what draws them to there.
That's it. Who's your character on Smash Bros? I like Kirby.
Samus, Greninja, who else I use? Toon Link.
Yeah.
Cool.
Amazing. That's pretty cheap then, $9. And you get a drink with it and you get to go in and just... How long is the session?
Oh, you play as long as you want.
Oh, I see.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's great.
You can play until they close. And I can tell you this much: before they got the studio set up, there was a place called Retro Game Bar. I think it was in Hongdae in Seoul. They used to where we used to go for the Smash Bros tournaments before they got their own set up, and now that's what we go. Both Koreans and Japanese go there. Wow. So how it works? They got singles. Usually have singles elimination and double elimination. And I think they do team-based events too. Normally, I can save it for those because I gotta head back home. I'll go back get to work in the morning.
Yeah, makes sense.
So how far are you from Seoul?
I'm about 4 to 5 hours, depending on traffic.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
I'm on the East Coast, like in a small East Coast town, so it's so bad. Again, it's just more like the travel. I gotta plan those. If I ever go to school, you gotta plan those out. It's not like Whereas other cities where like that's a little bit closer, especially since I don't have a car. Now you can get around in Korea without a car, but of course, smaller towns or like Jeju Island, it's easier if you can drive. If you have an international license, you can rent a car.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah. And what is the transport there like? You know, are the buses quite frequent, or the coaches, or the trains even?
Yeah, yes. So you got the KTS, ITS, like trains you can take. This is the SRT, which is a little bit faster because it'll make less stops. So it's easy to get to the main cities. And of course, you get intercity buses, so you can get around between cities easily.
Yeah.
So that's usually the main mode of transportation for most Koreans who don't have cars, take the intercity buses. Like for most Koreans who don't live in the big city, like Seoul, for example, like me, like most folk, they'll go to Seoul for the weekend, leave Friday night, take a bus, because usually it's very common for Koreans or Koreans and foreigners who are dating or couples to meet their partner in the big city. And then Sunday night is when people go back home to get ready for work in the morning. Yeah, because one thing, like I almost got stuck because on Sundays, usually the return tickets to go back home, especially for small towns, they sell out quickly. So like when you get to Seoul, for me, every Friday night when I get to Seoul, I got my ticket right there.
Get back
straight. Yeah, that's the get ticket, man. Yeah, man.
Trust me, no chance.
Okay, so yeah, the tickets in Korea for travel is first come, first serve. So keep that in mind, especially in the holiday periods.
Can you imagine thinking you're trying to get home and then it's like they're like, yeah, we ain't got no more. Sorry.
Yeah, I almost had that happen to me. Like my backup plan would have been, I would have traveled to another city that's close by called Samcheok, and I would have got there around 9 o'clock by the time the last bus in that city had been done, and I would take a taxi back. So in that taxi ride will cost between 60 to 70 USD.
Too bad. That's not too bad. Thinking about
$70.
That's not too bad.
For a taxi.
Well, I mean, in terms of Korea, but yeah, in terms of living in Korea, that's still a lot just to travel.
It's a lot. Yeah, but that's 60, 70, that's like 60, 70 pounds from Uber.
Yeah, and then Sean's saying that's not too bad.
No, £70 is $70 is like.
Where's that to go from? From where to where, sir?
That's usually just one medium-sized city to a small city where I'm at.
How long is that in time in duration?
About an hour. I think maybe 30 minutes by car, I would say. 30, 45 minutes.
Cool. You know what? I was thinking you was talking about like to Seoul or something. So I thought you was getting a 4 or 5 hour journey.
No, in general, it takes about 4 hours, especially normal days, maybe 3.5 or 4, depending. Now there are rest stops. Like we ride intercity buses. It is a rest stop area. So usually you get about 20 minutes to go to the bathroom and then maybe get a snack and get back on the bus.
Yeah. If you don't make it, then they go without you, or
that's it.
No, I'm pretty sure they'll definitely keep you, but you don't want to stay around,
Yeah.
Would you say that there's a route? Do you think Koreans are quite routined, or South Koreans? Sorry,
South Koreans. Yeah, I will definitely say so in some sense.
Sometimes we watch a lot of. I'd say, even here in the UK, sometimes we watch a lot of shows that make Koreans look, or, I guess that side of Asia look very kind of like everything's routine, everything's kind of in its place, in order, all the shops kind of have a particular type of look to them. Was that something that you kind of found was the case when you arrived there? Were you kind of surprised by anything?
Yeah, it's kind of routine / everything can happen at last minute. So sometimes, like literally, and without warning too. So, for instance, like sometimes when it comes to teaching classes, right? There'll be one moment where I get in class, my class is ready and everything. I'm like, and I don't find out till later. Oh, I don't have a class today for some reason.
Oh wow.
For whatever right reason, I was like, okay, I wish you told me in advance.
Yeah, traveled all the way to work, and
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like
You're
I mean, I don't mind the
so
kids doing
patient.
their own thing, but it's like please let me know in advance so I have to wait. Where is everybody? Are they late?
yeah.
Do they reimburse your travel if that happens?
No. Travel-wise, no, since I work at school.
Wow.
That's crazy. I can't like. So
No, I mean, what do you mean? Like,
you can travel in, and then they tell you that there's no class today.
oh no. I mean, like travel-wise, no. No, I mean, in terms of like a last-minute culture, for example, like if I teach a class one day, if I set up my lessons one day, like, and sometimes my Korean coach says, "Oh, there's no class today," while I'm at the school. To travel reimbursement, no, there's not really much of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
It's so interesting to hear because you know as you're talking and as you're explaining things, it makes me feel so privileged.
But I'm just thinking the same thing. We got it good in
like,
England,
and we moan about our
good
lives
over
here,
there,
you know?
man.
Yeah, and that's not to say that
about
you know.
Boris Johnson.
Yeah, it's not here is you know like it's I don't know like decimated with poverty and blah 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 and this and that. It's not nothing to do with that.
It's a different
just to
culture,
do with it's just the cult. It's just culture and what we're so used to here, and some of the things we complain about here, you know, are so accessible to us. But other places, they just don't even bat an eyelid to it because they're thinking, well, I can't get that back, or you know, I'm just not entitled to it. So it's so interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, guys. So yeah, just before we wrap up, are there any last questions? Any last questions you want to get in?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about you said that there's a lot of debt over there, or people are in a lot of debt because they're trying to solve and so forth. Is there a big gambling culture over there?
No, gambling is illegal for Koreans apparently.
Okay.
Oh, swear down.
So most of the debt is acquired sort of like, I guess, like you said, housing loans and sort of just loans, sort of. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the housing loans like to go to house, but most of the loans in general, housing-wise, is mostly going to flats.
Yeah.
To get a flat, especially again, most Korean cultures like it's about like trying to get the big. See, talk about system. And unfortunately, real estate, they're building more houses than people than people that they have it. I mean, flats that you can see that just recently built, no one's really living in there because again, who can afford to live there?
Do people do like? Do they do drugs over there?
Do what?
Do people do drugs over there?
No, drug illegal. I think weed recently. Korea is more medicinal purposes. It's still controversial, but to recreational, no, you can't smoke weed over here. You get in trouble for that. Yeah, so definitely, I would say, especially a lot of Asian countries, definitely make sure if you love smoke weed, you gotta be careful because some countries like UK, US, you're fine, but other countries, Asia, nah, you're going to prison. What's
their tolerance of like alcohol?
Yeah, some countries you can't smoke weed, especially the hard drugs. Especially you call the hard drugs, like that's your ass.
What about alcohol?
Yeah, alcohol's fine. Korea's a massive drinking culture, so you'll be fine.
Okay, yeah. And do you know what the average, I guess, household income is there?
I do not know.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason why I was asking is about like how much maybe like the average flat would cost there. You know, like a.
So I'll put it this way, like I'm not gonna lie, I really don't much understand the housing system, especially like taking the deposits, right?
Yeah.
You could be for like a standard, even for office sale, small, even apartment could be like between like $5,000 to $10,000.
Okay. Is that to rent or is it to
That's like more the deposit. That's like the deposit for the flat.
Okay. Yeah.
You still pay the rent, but usually like the more you pay extra to the deposit, you get lower rent, I believe.
Yeah.
So now again, it's a weird system that you may want to look into your own time. Even I can't really explain it that well.
Yeah. That's about £4,000 to £7,000 for like a deposit. It's a little higher than what you would pay back in the UK, basically. Yeah.
Or standard one single person apartment type. Yeah.
But yeah, so Phil, thank you for taking time out to talk to us and talk with us, and
thank you.
You've opened our eyes.
For the link.
Yeah, opened my eyes to so much.
Yeah. Is there anything you would want to shout out, or shed some light on? Anything you want to shout out at all?
Yeah, sure. If you want to support my adventures, then be interested about Korea. Come up, call Black Trousers Guy to Inichan, INCHEON, and the Black Trousers Guy to Daegu, DAEGU. South Korea, you can find them on Amazon ebook formats right now. I'm actually working on my next book. Is going to be a travel guide for South Korea, but that won't be ready for like another year or two. You want to know my adventures? Hit me up on TikTok and Instagram at the Blerd Explorer.
Cool.
Amazing. Yeah, hopefully we can you can do this career and we can do the podcast in person as well.
That'll be wavy.
We'll definitely stay
I
in
love
touch.
I love your t-shirt, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, actually, true story. I actually tried to buy this shirt before the Black Panther movie came out, but it didn't make it in time. It came right after the movie came out in theaters.
Man. You're a big Marvel fan as well.
Yeah. No, true story. The crazy you don't know, look, Koreans, they definitely love the MCU a lot. And fun fact, now for a lot of many Black teachers, including myself, I got compared to Obama or LeBron James. But when Black Panther came out, it changed the game. So many of us got called Black Panther teacher, Wakanda teacher.
Oh, stop it. The thing is, you can see the funny side in it, but it's like if that happened over here, it would be an uproar, you know what I mean?
It's like, I want to be a symbol, like, okay, these kids don't really talk or see Black people. I'm like their little exposure to Black culture. It's like, okay, it's better than a rapper. I'll take it in a rapper.
You come to the end of the episode, really. So you've been with
South Korea.
So who you been with? Start with we'll go the normal order.
Yeah, you've been here with Axe.
Been here with Shapes.
What? Come on, Sean.
Oh, I said it as well. I said it. It's my lag. Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
No. Start
Do it again, man.
I'm not. It's not gonna happen because I'm lagged, man. I'm lagged.
Whoa, we're gonna have to go again then. That's fine.
Go.
Yeah, you've been here with Axe.
You've been here with Shorts.
In here, BCB, aka Chargy D, aka
Angle Man
Yes.
We got
and also go on, Phil. Who have you been here with, bro? Tell them your name.
You're here with Trakai, man.
Bro.
All right, bro.
No, pleasure.
Take care,
talking to you, Phil, man.
Pleasure.
man.
Get some more rest.
Right. Take care now.
Take care, bro.
Bye.
Take care, bro.
Yeah, lads. Woo!